20. Queens, Triborough Bridge, Midtown Tunnel, extra slow westbound into Manhattan. Westchester, heavy traffic now. Nassau County, Northern State, Southern State, the usual delays into Queens.
On an average weekday, almost 3 million people converge on New York City. They are called commuters. People who do not have to commute call them something else. Masochists. No doubt about it, the gateway is here. Extensive railroads, highways, waterways, and airways have helped Americans, and the people of the tri-state region in particular, move farther and faster than those of any country on earth. The average tri-state resident, for example, can expect to travel 700,000 miles in his lifetime. That's 5 times more than he traveled 50 years ago. The question is, how much more mobility can he reasonably expect? And how much more is he willing to pay for it in terms of money and natural resources? If, that is, he survives the stress and strain of daily commuting, conditions that would be declared illegal if used for livestock, conditions that make it seem impossible sometimes to get there from here.
For 11-year-old Terrence Prince, this is a night to remember. He's from Harlem, USA. He is singing in Harlem, Holland. How Terrence Prince went from Harlem to Harlem is what hope is all about. It is also the subject of this special report.
Archbishop Sheen lived a long and rich life. As it was nearing its end, he was kind enough to sit down and talk about his life with Channel 7's Marie Torre.
Archbishop Sheen moved to this apartment building on East 77th Street 10 years ago when he retired. He lived modestly in a 4-room apartment with one of the rooms turned into a chapel. He spent a good deal of the time writing, including his autobiography, which remains unfinished. For the last 15 years, he avoided interviews, granting them only when a friend interceded. When Bishop Sheen agreed to see me, I had said it would take about half an hour to film a 2-part interview for the AM New York show. But as we talked, I could not stop asking questions. Call it premonition, if you will, but I was driven by an awareness that there would not be another opportunity to talk with him, and I wanted to get it all in. The feeling was on target. This was indeed his last interview. There is no one in the Catholic Church who has amassed as large a list of notable converts as you've been credited with, from Claire Booth Luce to Fritz Kreisler to Louis Boudens, who was the managing editor of the Daily Worker. Among those, I mean, which one fills you with the greatest pride in terms of an achievement?
Which one? I think the first one, which was the lady who conducted the boarding house in Paris when I went there to study as a young priest. I could barely speak French, so I had to talk to her with a dictionary, and hence it was a great effort. But I received her into the church, and that proved, you see, that it was nothing in my power that did it. It was simply the grace of the good Lord that created the response in her.
Are you saying that the gambling industry owes compulsive gamblers nothing?
That's probably correct, yeah. Owes them nothing.
David Gardner represents the Casino Hotel Association in Atlantic City. He feels the casinos contribute their share to social and health problems, compulsive gambling included, through corporate taxes to state and federal governments.
We certainly have an obligation to discuss, and have, on many occasions, discussed the problem with many of the experts in the field. But do we have an obligation to solve the problem? No, we can't.
Can't or will not. In reality, there is nothing wrong with compulsive gambling that money couldn't cure or arrest, as they say at Gamblers Anonymous meetings. Compared to other illnesses, it is severely underfunded. There are, for example, 4,500 treatment programs for alcoholism in the United States. Drug abuse, 2,500. Compulsive gambling, 9. Only 9 treatment programs in the whole country.
The perception of people is that there is greater crime in the subways than elsewhere. That is not a true perception of the reality.
To Mayor Koch, subway crime is exaggerated.
If I didn't carry a gun, I would be very skeptical of riding the subway. I have a mother who's a senior citizen who lives in the city, and I am very frightened when she does use the subway.
Transit Police Union head William McKechnie says that if subway crime is not checked, the city could fall apart.
Crime-free is a tall order to begin with. I mean, I don't know, when you talk crime-free, that's probably an impossible order to say crime-free.
Subway crime, like the weather, produces a lot of talk. Nobody's happy with subway conditions. The riders complain that they take their lives in their hands every time they use the subway. The transit police say there just isn't enough of them to make it a safe subway system. And the people in charge feel pressure on all sides to do something, anything, to keep out the hoodlums. Mr. Mayor, if crime in the subway is not the problem that I think it is, why would you raise the fare 5 cents to help combat crime in the subway?
I'll tell you why. Firstly, I'm not denigrating the fact that people are concerned about crime in the subways, and the crime has to be in some way or other addressed. I'm giving you simply the proportions of it.
You use cocaine?
Yeah, occasionally, over probably 10 years since I first tried it.
You can take cocaine recreationally without being addicted to it.
I find not only for myself, but most people in my experience can take cocaine on occasion, and very few people get addicted to it.
Well, I would say John Belushi used it recreationally. It was a matter of time. There are many more, like Billie Holiday and Elvis Presley.
The only comparison I could draw is that a lot of people go swimming and only few of them drown or get eaten by sharks.
Forgetting about defending, would you marry any of the women that you have represented? Seriously. Seriously.
You won't have to work.
Yeah, that's the most interesting question I think I've ever been asked. I think marriage is difficult for any of us. You know, the divorce rate in this country...
You didn't answer the question.
I'm going to. Is 60 to 70%. Yeah, I've met a lot of nice women, but I've been married 22 years. My wife hasn't seen me much. So I'd have to get the divorce first.
Who's going to reach these new voters, and with what message in November of 1984, Mr. Knopfziger?
Well, I think that first of all, we have to recognize that there will be 2 or 3 or maybe 4 candidates out there, and they'll all be trying to reach them. The next thing we have to recognize is that while
Fiorello LaGuardia died about 20 months after he surrendered the reins of mayor to William O'Dwyer. And he said as he did so, it's not good to stay in office too long. Those who do become bossy, and they tell me I'm sort of inclined that way at times. Indeed, he was the boss, the paternal curator of the New York City he loved, and conversely, the city that loved him. If, as Samuel Butler once wrote, he is greatest who is most often in men's good thoughts, there can be no doubt that LaGuardia was the greatest. For today, 35 years after his death, there are still big memories of the little flower.
I follow the old rule, and a man has given me much if he's given me something to love. I loved him. Everybody did.
He said, don't worry about people knowing you. Make yourself worth knowing. Don't show off so much. Show what you really have. Go to work. Don't worry about people knowing you. Make yourself worth knowing. And that stayed with me all my life.